Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Rai Rachna Kumari in the Department of Genetics, Women's Vivekananda College of Science, Humanities and Commerce, Sainipul, Hyderabad. I am here to speak on one of the basic molecular biology technique called electrophoresis. But firstly, before I start into the topic, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me such an opportunity to be a part of the 5 days national workshop on CSIR, UGC, and JRF, lecturership and gate preparation for the students of life sciences. My topic on electrophoresis, I have divided my topic into broad categories: introduction, definition, types, principle, instrumentation, chemicals required, sample, preparation, protocol, and applications. The predominantly used biophysical technique in molecular biology is electrophoresis because this helps in the separation of biomolecules like DNA, RNA, and protein. Molecular biology revolves around the major three molecules DNA, RNA, and protein. Therefore, it becomes essential for us to isolate how do we separate these DNA, RNA, and protein molecules while we're performing any kind of an experiment during our study. This method underlies the principle of separating the molecules in the presence of electric current. So when I'm saying that in the presence of electric current, the molecules tend to separate, it obviously indicates that we would refer to those molecules which tend to carry some kind of a charge. That means the charged particles can be separated using the technique of electrophoresis. However, the migration is based on the properties not just by the charge but also by the molecular mass, molecular weight, size, shape possessed by these molecules. Now let us define what is electrophoresis. Electrophoresis is a technique that involves migration of charged particles or molecules in a medium. Medium here refers to not the liquid medium, but definitely a stationary phase, something like a gel, which we will be talking as we go further. In this medium under the influence of an applied electric field. So the rate of migration of charged molecules depends upon majorly the two factors, that is the electric field applied, the size and the shape, along with the second factor, the relative hydrophobicity of the sample. So based upon the molecules, there are two types of electrophoresis, and these are known as vertical gel electrophoresis, commonly known as polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, or sometimes SDS page in short. The other one, horizontal electrophoresis, it is also known as agarose gel electrophoresis or submarine gel electrophoresis. All these three names are similar or refer to one and the same technique called the agarose gel electrophoresis, and agarose gel electrophoresis in short is known as AGE, AGE. Depending on the type of the different instruments are used, so whether we are intending to use a vertical gel electrophoresis or a horizontal gel electrophoresis, the instrumentation varies. I have already defined you. So therefore, an electrophoretic system consists of two electrodes of the opposite charge that are connected by a conducting medium called an electrolyte. The basic principle is the proteins or the DNA. Proteins are not uniformly charged. We find that proteins can either be positively charged or negatively charged. In contrast to the nucleic acids, that is DNA, which are usually negatively charged. So any molecule will tend to be attracted or tend to move towards the opposite electrode. So therefore, these proteins we need to impart because we want them to move in one direction. So what are we going to do is we are supposed to impart a uniform charge to the protein. So as we go further, we discuss how do we do that. On the other hand, nucleic acids basically they themselves have a negative charge. So therefore, they will be moving on to the positively charged electrode. So this charge, the negative charge is due to the presence of the phosphate backbone in their structure and hence they tend to migrate towards the anode. There are three factors here we need to consider that an ion placed in an electric field will be exposed to an electrophoretic force and it has a K constant and Q will be the net charge of the protein or the DNA or the RNA molecule which we are intending to separate. The instrumentation which we are going to use here is the first one shows this is the vertical system which you can see that this is having two tanks, one small tank on the top and one bigger tank at the bottom. But these two tanks are interconnected by a thin film here which we are supposed to use for the casting of gel between the two glass plates. So that has to be transferred and fixed onto this instrument. After that, pour the buffer, load the sample, and the buffer has to be loaded in both the upper tank as well as lower tank, and then it has to be connected to the electrodes and then switched on the power supply. So this is an instrument that is required for vertical gel electrophoresis or PAGE. The difference between this and this can easily be differentiated. Here you can see that it is horizontally laid like a stage. So this is the stage which is present here. And this stage is having a detachable casting tray, which you can see here that this side and this side are closed. This side and this side are open. Though this is covered by a lid, inside the system, this tray, the blue colored one which you see here is detachable. So what we do here is we need to put a tape here, a cellophane tape here and close it on or both the sides here. These two are already closed, so we are supposed to close using a tape on both these sides. After that, we are supposed to layer the agarose after melting it with the buffer. So that molten agarose is casted in this to a certain thickness. You can see here this blue line. So this is the thickness of the gel. After it polymerizes or solidifies, then we are supposed to insert a comb. Here also we have a comb that has to be inserted and then for the formation of the wells. Once the wells are formed, we have to shift it to the system, connect the power supply, load the samples, and then switch on the power supply or the conductance of electricity. What are the chemicals required for agarose and polyacrylamide or PAGE? Agarose gel electrophoresis requires agarose, whereas PAGE requires acrylamide. So here, the buffer system which we are using for the horizontal electrophoresis can be tris-HCl buffer or tris-borate EDTA buffer. In PAGE also we can use the tris-borate EDTA buffer. So what matters here is what is the desired pH at which our molecule can be isolated or it can be resolved. So we need to check the pH of the buffer for our desired molecule. Bromophenol blue is common because this blue is nothing but it's a tracking dye. As we know that our samples will be colorless. Protein, DNA or RNA, they are colorless. You have extracted something from any tissue or from any bacterial cells, then our DNA or the protein will be colorless. Because we would want to purify them or isolate them, then there is a necessity that we need to coat our sample with the tracking dye in order to identify how far our samples have moved in the gel. You have an additional component in pH called SDS. It is a potential detergent which is used for the imparting uniform charge to the proteins. Suppose if you impart a uniform net negative charge, our SDS tend to impart a net negative charge to the protein molecule so that they can move to the positive electrode. The dye or the stain which is used for the agarose gel is Ethereum bromide, which is a potential neurotoxin. It is a carcinogen. For page, we use a stain called Pumas Brilliant Blue, which will give you the development of blue color bands, whereas Ethereum bromide is a fluorescent dye and also popularly known as an intercalating dye, which will intercalate with the DNA, so hence specifically used for DNA molecules. Let's check out what are the differences between agarose and polyacrylamide gels. Agarose is obtained from a seaweed. It is a polysaccharide, a sugar molecule obtained, extracted from the seaweed. Whereas polyacrylamide, it is a chemical compound which is a cross-linked polymer of acrylamide. So we use a monomer and a dimer so as to form a cross-linker linking polymer. In agarose, the gel is casted horizontally. In page, we cast it vertically. As I just mentioned, agarose is indeed non-toxic, but we have polyacrylamide. This acrylamide chemical compound is a potent neurotoxin. So one has to be very careful in handling the acrylamide. So it is always advisable to use disposable gloves. Agarose gel facilitates the separation of larger molecules. So I would say the separation of DNA molecules. We can talk about genomic DNA, but if one is interested in isolation or separation of genomic DNA using polyacrylamide gel, that becomes difficult. So therefore, larger molecules can be separated by using by using agarose gel electrolytes. And finally, agarose gels are stained. That means we need not stain after the complete process of electrolysis is over. Here, our stain, we just need to add a couple of drops of lithium bromide while we are casting the gel in the gel tray. That will serve the purpose of the stain. That means it will fluoresce. Later, we need not add any stain to look at our bands. So the difference with the uses of this polyacrylamide is it helps in the separation of smaller molecules. Therefore, we can say, though I have written here DNA, it does not mean we can isolate genomic DNA. We can only separate DNA molecules which are of smaller size. For example, all the restriction digested fragments of the DNA. Suppose you have extracted the bacterial genome and it is subjected to restriction digestion, then definitely smaller DNA fragments can be visualized using the polyacrylamide gel. And then we can also identify small RNA molecules and obviously the proteins which are of much smaller size comparison to that of the DNA, and the peptides also can be isolated. Here in polyacrylamide gel, we need to stain the gel with the Pumas Brilliant Blue, which I've already discussed in the previous slide about what chemicals we use. So you will find the formation of blue color bands in the polyacrylamide gel in contrast to the agarose gel where we are using a fluorescent dye. Now how do we prepare the sample? DNA and RNA are negatively charged particles, so hence they will be pulled towards the positive electrode. Whereas our proteins, as we discussed, proteins have both positive as well as negative charge. So therefore, for us to use them in electrophoresis, we need to add a detergent called SDS. This detergent SDS, sodium dodecyl sulfate, imparts a uniform negative charge to the protein. And also, it helps to unfold them into a linear structure. And linear structure, what we do is after we add SDS, we need to heat it for a certain time so that couple of minutes it will help in unfolding into the linear structure so that they can migrate easily into the gel, thus facilitating the movement towards the positive electrode. Similarly, to impart a density, because we are mixing them in the sample, there is a necessity for us that it also has to have some density because it should settle down and move downwards and not go back into the buffer medium. So to impart density, they are also coated with molecules like glycerol or sucrose. And lastly, to visualize with the naked eye, we need a tracking dye called bromophenol blue, which is used for monitoring the mobility of the sample in the gel while the process of electrophoresis is in progress. So how do we prepare the agarose gel? So we require 1% agarose gel for a small tray of the agarose gel. It requires 30 ml of the agarose in tris borate buffer. So this is with the 1% constitution. This TX 10x buffer is diluted to 1x buffer with double distilled water, and then the agarose powder is dissolved in this 1x buffer as it is does not dissolve in the buffer which is cold. So what we do is we need to boil it to also as to obtain a homogeneous mixture. So care should be taken to avoid the formation of air bubbles. If there are air bubbles in the gel, that will interfere with the mobility of the sample. As a consequence of this, the results we will get poor resolution of our samples and erroneous results will be obtained. So what we are supposed to do is allow this molten agarose to cool for a couple of minutes and then add 2 to 3 drops of ethidium bromide stain and cast it in the tray. Once we cast it in the tray, allow it to polymerize. Prior to polymerization, gently we have to insert the comb so that it will facilitate the formation of the wells. Now that after the gel is ready, it is transferred to the electrophoretic unit and the buffer is poured till the gel immerses. The samples that are mixed with the tracking dye are loaded in the wells of the gel. Now our electrophoretic system is ready. We simply need to connect the power cords to the power pack and then switch on the power supply. The run usually lasts from 1 to 2 hours. After that, we need to switch off the power supply and the gel is transferred. Not with the tray, we will have to simply remove the gel and then transfer it to the trans illuminator for observing the DNA bands. These bands can be observed under the trans illuminator as a ladder. Now moving on to SDS polyacrylamide gel. The casting of the gel is more complex compared to agarose because the gel has to be casted within the space laid due to the spacers that are fixed to the two glass plates on the three slides. So that creates a little amount of space, a very narrow space into which we are supposed to load or load the gel sample. There are two types of gels which are necessary for better resolution of our samples. One called as the resolving gel, which is made up of 7 to 8% of acrylamide. It facilitates finer resolution of the bands. But above the resolving gel, we need to cast a stacking gel, which is having a higher percentage, say from 10 to 12% acrylamide gel has to be prepared, which helps in stacking up the molecules at the beginning prior to getting into the resolving gel further. After the glass plates are clamped, the resolving gel is prepared and poured. So once we need to prepare, first the resolving gel has to be prepared and then casted between the glass plates till the 3 by 4 of the distance. After this resolving gel is polymerized at the bottom, then we are supposed to cast the stacking gel with the given said percentage. And the job or the purpose of having a stacking gel is all the proteins which are present in the form of mixture, they will stack one above the other in the stacking gel. So that is the purpose of stacking gel. And after the stacking gel is the sample crosses the stacking gel, it reaches the resolving gel, where the components can be separated or resolved easily. So for polymerization, ample light should be there, and this also has facilitated the process is through the release of free radicals. Finally, after the resolving gel is polymerized, we need to cast the remaining as the cast above. Later, the stacking gel is casted above the resolving gel and allowed to polymerize by placing a comb for the formation of wells. Here there is a mistake. I would want you people to kindly note it should be around 10 to 12% gel. That is the percentage of stacking gel. The glass plates are then assembled after once we have the absolute polymerization of both the resolving gel and the stacking gel. And then once we have inserted the comb, the wells also have formed properly. This assembly is transferred to the electrophoretic unit and then the buffer is poured in both the lower and upper tanks. The samples are loaded in the wells along with the tracking dye as we discussed earlier and after heat denaturation of the protein. Now, when I use here heat denaturation, I don't mean to say that I'm going to denature the protein completely so that I get nothing out of it, but it is heat denaturation is used as a step just for the unfolding of the secondary, tertiary structures so that it can be easily separated. Now this unit is connected to the power supply and switched on. The run lasts for, this is a more tedious process as the run lasts for more number of hours in comparison to that of the agarose gel. So we require 3 to 4 hours at controlled temperatures. This point has to be emphasized. When I say controlled temperature, I don't mean to say at X or Y temperature, but here it refers that due to the longer run time and the electricity power supply, immense amount of heat is generated. So which in turn, due to this heat, it might degrade the sample. So just to avoid that, the power is turned off under glass plate. So it control temperature here refers to that. It has to be run at the temperature fairly around 25 to 30 degrees. So it is always advisable to run polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis in an AC or an air conditioned room. Otherwise, we can also use the refrigerator. You can create a space in the refrigerator and then through the cords connect it and run the electrophoresis in the refrigerator. That also is fine. Once after 3 to 4 hours, the sample has moved to 3 by 4 the distance of the gel. Then the power is turned off and the glass plates are removed from the unit. These glass plates are then transferred to a tray with water, distilled water preferably, and the gel is released free of the glass plates. Now we can replace water by our stain that is prepared in Kumasi blue stain with the help of methanol, acetic acid and water. Dissolve it and then allow the gel to remain in the stain for half an hour to 1 hour. After the stain is removed, we can't clearly visualize these bands, so therefore we need to destain. So the excess stain which is there, it has to be removed. So this process is achieved. The destaining process is achieved by using 7% acetic acid. So wash the gel a couple of hours, 3 to 4 times till clear bands appear with a fader. You can see the image here on the right side below corner. Bands are darker. This is the sample. The background is blue. So we have to do the removal of the excess stain by repeated washings through 7% acetic acid. For the convenience of your understanding, I have attached a video. I would request you people to just go through the video.
Hi, and welcome to my video series of Biotechnics Explained in 5 minutes, where I explain a concept in TS page.
I have also added another video for your convenience which demonstrates the method of agarose gel electrophoresis. So I request you people to, I would request to kindly refer the same. So what are the applications? The applications are that it helps, technique, electrophoresis technique helps in the qualitative and quantitative estimation of proteins. And then estimation of RNA, DNA concentration in crude extracts. For instance, you have extracted some protein in the leaf sample, or you had extracted some protein or DNA in a tissue sample. So in order to obtain the concentration of RNA and DNA, we can use electrophoresis from the crude extracts. Apart from this, estimating the molecular weight of unknown molecules. And then, if you have performed restriction digestion using a set of restriction enzymes, take the genomic DNA of a bacterial cell and subject it to restriction digestion by using restriction enzymes. Maybe you can use a single restriction enzyme or one or two combination of the restriction enzyme and check for how many fragments we generate. So that also we can use through electrophoresis, we can find out. And we can also use electrophoresis for the PCR product analysis. Suppose we have a set of primers. These primers will specifically amplify a particular DNA fragment exclusively. But our sample will consist of not only those DNA fragments, but the other DNA fragments also. So we are using specific primers for a particular DNA fragment. So only that particular DNA will be amplified. So we can distinguish between the amplified DNA fragment and the not amplified DNA fragment using electrophoresis. In the field of immunology, you can use in the for detecting the purity of antibodies and DNA fingerprinting. Indeed, then we have genome analysis, and the last one to characterize metal oxide nanoparticles. This is the latest advancement in the field of molecular biology, the concept of nanoparticles. So here, to give you a better understanding about how do we calculate the molecular weight of, so this is our crude extract which we have loaded, and here we are using a ladder that is a standard, commercially available standard. With this, each of the bands molecular weight will be given. If you are using a protein molecule, that will be given in with the respective kilodaltons. Suppose if it is a DNA, then it will be given in kilobases. So if it is the farther DNA, we have loaded the sample here and then it starts moving. So this will talk about that this sample or the molecular weight of this is much less in comparison to the band which is on the top. This is having a higher molecular weight, greater size, and larger fragment here. If it is a protein, then its molecular weight is bigger, that is higher than this. So it's just we need to have a standard marker here, and if we know the molecular weights of the standard, and this is my unknown sample, and I found this is the band. So I can relate the molecular weight with the reference marker which we are using here. There is also another method by which we can calculate the molecular weight of the unknown by using the logarithm of the molecular weight of the ladder. Here we plot a graph against the RF. What is RF? It is the retardation factor where it is calculated by distance moved from the start and from the start of the sample. Now this is our sample, this is our distance. From here to here, this spot has moved. So you measure this distance and divided by the total distance by which through which the buffer has moved. So from here to here will be the buffer. So what do we get? We get these points here. So you can see a black spot here. So this black spot corresponds to the smallest molecule which is here. And the use of color makes your job easy. Here this is the second one, the green colored one. And this is the third one, which is the white one, to which with our, it corresponds with the violet color one, which we have in our sample. So we have circled the white spot with the violet, saying that this is the molecular weight of my unknown sample which I have extracted. Then you can see the red, which are exactly red, green, blue, and so on. So this is a way to calculate the molecular weight of the. To give you an example here, when you run the gel and you can see to relate that this is a fluorescent dye, so obviously, and you can see the units here, it is represented in base pairs. So this is a clear indication to tell us that this is a DNA ladder. This is the standard which we are using here. Here also, here we have named that this is a 3 kb fragment. Here it is 1 kb fragment, and this is 500 base pair fragment. This is 100 base pair fragment. And these are our samples which we have loaded. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So using our reference here, this well and this well, we have loaded the same sample. And it is lying between 1 kb and 500. It is greater than 500 base pairs and lesser than 1 kb. So therefore, using our previous slide, using our graphical method, we can relate what is the probable molecular weight of our desired fragment. Similarly, you can see these two lanes are one and the same here. So our lane 3, lane 4 have the same sample. Lane 1, I'm sorry, lane, this will be lane 2 as our lane 1 consists of ladder. So lane 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, sixth lane. 2 and 6 are same. 1 and 7 is a ladder and 4 and 5 is again a same sample. We have one unique sample which is having 880 base pairs. This is how we can exploit or use electrophoresis as one of the efficient tools and technique in molecular biology. With this, I would conclude my presentation. Good day. But before I finish, I would also like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. A special mention to Dr. Pitambar Humane, founder Botany for You, and others, Dr. Nishikant, Dr. Nitin, Dr. Tushar, and Dr. Deepak for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again. Thank you one and all.